So what's up? This is JuJuan Buford, managing partner JSB Business Solutions Group, co-founder of Next Op Social. And what I want to talk about is a conversation I had with a business partner recently, and quite frankly, with a number of business owners whom I either work with, counsel with, or mentor or been mentored by. And I don't know, maybe it's in the water. But lately, the conversations come up about trials and tribulations, right, in entrepreneurship. And I believe there's this misunderstanding that individuals have that somehow because you choose entrepreneurship, that not only will money fall from the sky like manna, but that for whatever reason, BS.com doesn't happen, right? That disappointments don't happen, that doubt doesn't transpire, that people don't go through hardships and hurt and extreme disappointment, illnesses, distractions, etc., etc. And, you know, I know a lot of individuals never want to share their ugly duckling stage or when they go through ugly duckling experiences or when they have moments, but I think it's necessary because there are a lot of people who want to start entrepreneur endeavors. There's a lot of people who want to be entrepreneurs, or quite frankly, it's not something you want to be. You either do it or you don't. It's kind of like boxing, right? You play football, you play basketball, you don't play entrepreneurship. You make the decision to do it or not. But in any respect, I thought this was important because I think people need to hear this, right? That entrepreneurship does not make you immune to these things. And I was having a conversation with my business partner, or one of my business partners, and we were talking about this, right? And especially when bad things happen or things that you don't anticipate happening, how it can shake you, how it can create doubt and create fissures in your confidence and in the message you deliver. And after having that conversation, I'll tell you a couple of things that I concluded during that conversation, but also kind of having a similar conversations with many other entrepreneurs. I wanted to hear their opinions as well. I just wanted to share a little bit of what that content looked like. I might actually do some type of, I don't know, podcast, or maybe even do some type of online vlog to talk about this. I think it's a very important topic. But one of the first things that I saw, or a theme that repeatedly came up, number one, is that one of the reasons why people get shook is because they're unsure of the goal. They become unsure of the destination. Maybe something knocks them off their square where they're really not clear anymore about what they're taking aim at. And the way I explain it metaphorically, it's akin to getting in your vehicle early in the morning and you jump in your vehicle and all of a sudden it's like torrential downpour. Plus it's like fog where you can only see 3 feet ahead of you, right? And look, anyone in their right mind, you jump in your vehicle and you drive in those conditions, you're going to be tentative. You're going to be tentative for a couple reasons. You're going to be tentative, number one, because you're looking around to make sure somebody's not making error in judgment and hit your vehicle and cause you severe harm, right? But you're also tentative because you don't want to be the person to cause the incident. You don't want to run into something or somebody or cause harm to yourself or somebody else. You're real tentative, right? Because you're unsure of what direction to go. You're unsure of how to get to the destination, and it may even thwart your belief that you can get there. And so you become very tentative. Well, in many respects, entrepreneurship works the same way. When the BS.com comes for you, it creates fog. And one of the easiest ways to cut through the fog as an entrepreneur is to go back to your values. Go back to your reasons for starting the business anyway. Revisit your core focus. Revisit who you want to serve and how you want to serve. And quite frankly, revisit the destination. Like, what is this all about? You know, are you trying to have more time for your family? Are you trying to become more financially independent? Get money as an issue out the way so you can do more of the things that you want to do as opposed to things like you feel like you have to do to earn money. Do you want to live a more purpose-driven life, right? And until you get money as an issue out the way, that can be very difficult. Maybe you want to move your children into a different school, or you want to move into a different neighborhood. Look, if you're about the bling bling, you know, you want to shine, watches, cars, trips, whatever the case may be, hey, go hard on that. That's you too. But you got to get back in touch with the reasons why you're doing what you're doing. And that's one of the things that reemerged time and time again in the conversations I was having. Like, the way to get out the fog is to hit the reset and really just take a look at your goals. The answer 9 times out of 10 is not going to come from the outside. It's an inside job, right? And that's one of the most effective ways to cut through the fog. You know, the other thing that repeatedly came up in our discussions when you're dealing with the BS.com is the idea of choosing consequences, right? When you're an entrepreneur, at least my opinion and what I've observed, and even in my own person, when things are going right, it's because I'm very clear about the consequences. I'm very clear about my choices. I, at least myself, have concluded that there's really no such thing as balance. It's just priorities. Because as an entrepreneur, sometimes you have to do things that your business requires of you, not the things that you feel like doing or things that you want to do, right? But that's the case in life, period, right? And there's trade-offs between spending all night, doing an all-nighter, between taking that trip, between having a conversation with family and say, look, I'm going to be distant for a period of time. Or the flip side, my family needs me right now. So if I got to take a haircut or adjust my timeline because some BS.com's transpired and I got to be there, right? You're never really going to find balance because the only constant in life is change. So what you're really doing is you're asking yourself, well, what are my priorities? And once again, it goes back to your values. It goes back to your core focus. What are your priorities? What are the things that matter most? And you let those things become your compass. The moment you start caring too much or giving, quite frankly, a rat's ass about what other people think about you, the moment you start caring too much about how you're going to be perceived, the moment you start caring too much about people who aren't even your target market, who aren't really even your core focus, who aren't really even in alignment with what you're taking aim at, that always amazes me, man. Entrepreneurs, especially when you're brand new, very guilty of this, right? Entrepreneurs will take the opinions of people who've never started up a business. It's like asking, a little league coach to coach you in a championship, and they've never been there. They've never performed on an elite high level. They've never performed professionally. Don't do that, right? Seek out individuals who've done the deal, who've achieved the things that you want to achieve. And they'll tell you 9 times out of 10, especially in the beginning, there was no balance. There was priorities. There were conversations, tough decisions that had to be made. And one of the differences between entrepreneurs who are okay and who are oftentimes able to transcend tough times, who are able to get through tough times, who are able to transcend and overcome the BS.com that is inevitably waiting for you, the turbulence, as I call it, is waiting for you, is being real clear about that, right? You choosing your consequences as opposed to letting the world choose your consequences for you, right? You choosing what the outcome is going to be as opposed to, once again, the world choosing it for you. You reach a point of acceptance, I guess is what I would say, right? And you'll find that time and time again, once again, with individuals who've really crushed it as entrepreneurs, who really transcended, who've gotten ahead, who've kind of separated themselves from the pack. They reach a point where they're kind of good with the consequences, right? They curated this life as opposed to other people, other circumstances, things that, other people were not vested in their come up or invested in their lifestyle or invested in things they really want. It is what it is, right? And so I wanted to share that because I thought it was really important in terms of having that discussion, right? And the BS.com, some of you are like, what's BS.com? That's my synonym for turbulence. And what's turbulence? Turbulence is that BS that shows up when you start to level up. That's what turbulence is. Look, the you tomorrow that you're taking aim at, that person's going to require you to move differently, think differently, believe differently. And it's going to be uncomfortable because you're going to have to adopt a different modus operandi, right? The easy example I can think of is if you're walking around at 300 pounds, and let's say you're uncomfortable with that, you're uncomfortable walking around 300 pounds, and you really want to be walking around at 220 pounds, your diet's got to change. That may be uncomfortable. You may have to start working out, and if you haven't worked out before, that might become uncomfortable. You may have to make changes in terms of when you eat. That may become a little bit uncomfortable. You may have to make changes in terms of where you go to eat, right? Because you probably have a routine, just like people have routines. They wake up in the morning, brush their teeth, wash their face, and bathe, do all that stuff. You may already be setting a certain type of routine, which is why you are where you're at, right? Because your routine set that point before you're at. It's going to be uncomfortable. You have to make some changes. Also, people are going to see you moving differently. People are going to see you behaving differently. People are going to see you spending your time differently. right? If you were partying or going bowling every other night, or hitting up the cigar bar, and all of a sudden you're not showing up there anymore, people are going to look at you sideways. What's going on, right? All of a sudden you're going to stop getting invited to certain things because you're not fitting in. You're weird. You're being different. And so as a result, people aren't going to necessarily be comfortable around you. And it's not because you're a bad person. It's not because you're doing something wrong. Sometimes when you're leveling up and you're willing to make the sacrifices, you're willing to give up to go up, and you're willing to do things other people are going to do, it shines a light on the fact they're not willing to do those things, right? That's part of the BS.com. Part of the BS.com is you're going to have haters. You're going to have haters. You have haters below you, sideline you, and people who have advanced beyond you. And your success is going to be disruptive, especially if it's different, especially if it's clothes, if it comes in different attire, right? They are automatically going to resist your efforts. And don't get mad. For me, this is huge. This is huge for me. Don't get mad with them. It's just human nature. They're just doing what human beings have always done, right? People ridicule different people. People ridicule people who are different. People ridicule people who move differently. Everybody wants to celebrate Oprah now. I remember Purple Oprah. Everybody celebrates Bezos now. I remember the pictures of him in a futon. Everybody celebrates Gates and Buffett now. I saw the pictures. I read Snowball, right? People ridiculed those individuals because they were different. They were weird. They were moving. They're acting different, speaking of different stuff. They had a different vision. Steve Jobs, same thing, right? I can name a lot of people. What's the gentleman? Childish Gambino, Glover, his last name. Same deal. People ridiculed the hell out of him because he was different. He was weird, and now he's crushing it. That's going to be you too. You just got to accept that and know that's just part of the deal. Count it as progress. Count it as victory. Because you know what? At the end of the day, dogs don't bark at parked cars. Dogs don't bark at parked cars. If you were fitting in like everyone else, if you were being mediocre like everyone else, if you were so concerned about what your neighbors or what other people were saying, thinking about what you were doing was landing with them, right? If you were doing nothing, they wouldn't have anything to say. They might have something to say. They may say you ain't doing ish, right? They may say that too, but otherwise, I notice, at least from personal experience, I think anyone who's listening to this and you're an entrepreneur and you've leveled up, right? Whether in terms of income, social status, or influence, or even leveling up into a different social class, right? Because, I'm going here because these are the conversations I've been having. Then I'm going to wrap up. Because there are 30,000 conversations, there's 100,000 conversations, there's 250,000 out of your conversations, $1 million out of your. Those conversations, if you're in the 30K, you don't know what 150,000 out of your people are talking about typically. You just don't, right? And as you're leveling up into different classes, you're no longer the top dog, you become the low dog. And people talk about you. And one, they talk about you because you had the nerve to distance yourself so you could level up, right? You had the nerve to distance yourself from certain people and situations. They talk about you about that. But then you're moving into another group of individuals who've already achieved and crushed it. Know, though, as the air gets thinner, if they're really busy and handling their business, they ain't got time to criticize you anyway. Successful people don't spend time talking about other people. I'm telling you right now. That's why I say dogs don't bark at parked cars, right? People are really crushing it, who are really winning at their business and at their enterprises. They really typically don't have time to be pocket watching other people and criticizing other people in the way they move. They're handling their own shit. They're taking care of their families, they're taking care of their business, they're juggling their own form of BS.com too. So, I wanted to share that because that was the conversation I've been having. And once again, I just feel like oftentimes people who aspire to be entrepreneurs or those who, make the plunge, they don't anticipate these things are going to happen. And it's conversations that, once again, typically don't happen enough in the entrepreneur community because, once again, everybody wants to show their veneer. But the ugly duckling stuff very rarely gets any airplay. It's not sexy, right? It's probably ain't going to get a lot of likes, shares, or any of that stuff because it's not a sexy conversation to have, but it's a necessary one. So, man, I got a lot of stuff I want to share. I got my own form of BS.com dealing with. Talk about how I transcend that a little bit later on. But I celebrate success in advance. Goodbye for now.